Greetings, I'm Ile I, and I am pleased to introduce our next theme of the Babaluaiye Healing Ritual. The theme is how spirituality can heal the body. Yes, how spirituality can heal the body. Look forward to learning information that can be used, information and knowledge and wisdom that has been shared to us through our ancestors, through our spiritual practice that can help us heal our bodies. Let us aim to have healthy and healed and whole mind, bodies, and spirits. So let's see what this is all about, hoping that you'll get information that you can use immediately to help you navigate all that you wish to navigate. Ashe.
Greetings, everyone. Babaluaiye. My name is Ifa Korede. I am an Ifa priest, teacher, Yoruba language and cultural enthusiast. I do a lot of spiritual work in the community, and I also do a lot of online workshops, events, classes, things like that. If you want to find out more, follow me on my Instagram first at Oriire, ORIIRE, or on my website, IamOriire.com. So when it comes to this whole topic of healing, right, what I specifically want to talk about is how our Egbe Orun, our heavenly mates, play a role in our spiritual and physical health. So I'm going to chant two of my own personal Odu. My Odu from Hana Ifa, right, and my Odu from Ifa initiation. So first, my Odu from Hana Ifa, Utura Meji. Ifa says, Akudu Mangbele, Diafun Eriaye, Ombowo Konfun Torun, Ebony Ifani Koshe, Ekuru Akara Timoje, Iya mi Tisan, Akudu Mangbele, Mama Kudegbenu, Akudu Mangbele, Iraiku, Iraje, Iraya, Iroko, Iromo, Ire Ishegunta, Timoje, Iya mi Tisan, Akudu Mangbele, Mama Kudegbenu, Akudu Mangbele. The second verse that I'm going to chant, and we'll discuss it, comes from my Ifa initiation Odu. Ifa says, Bio Jojo, Bio Jojo, Bio Tutu, Bi Ririn, Dia Fun Ririn Tin Somo, Ajalaye, Dia Fun Otutu Tin Somo, Ajani Waron, Ebony Woni, Won She, Eropo, Erofa, Eyin Ori, Otutu Bi Tin Mu Ririn Lo. We're going to come back and talk about what each of those verses means and how it relates to this whole topic of healing. But first, let's make sure everyone has a good foundational understanding of what Egbe Orun is, right? So Egbe Orun just means heavenly group or heavenly mates, right? The word Egbe just means group or like your peers, your mates, right? Orun is the spiritual realm or heaven, right? Not exactly in the Christian sense, but this is the spiritual realm, the abode of all the divinities and the deities, right? So to really understand this topic, let's take it back to before we are born. Every single human being starts off in Orun, the spiritual realm, before they are born, and they, come to earth, born through their mother, right? And there's many things that happen in preparation for every human being to be born. We know many of them. Batala molds our body out of a special clay. The Creator breathes life into that body and animates it. We choose our Ori, which is essentially choosing our destiny. But there's one important step, right? We each have a spiritual double that we split away from, right? And we call this Anikeji Orun, right? Which literally means like our heavenly double, right? So every human being, you're born, you go to earth, your spiritual double stays in heaven. So we all exist in the physical plane, and we simultaneously have a spiritual double that exists in heaven, right? Now, just like we down here on earth don't sit and do nothing, right? We have social structure. We have relationships with each other. We're a part of groups, and we have different categories, right? The same is true for all of our spiritual doubles in heaven. They have complex relationships with each other. They interact with each other. They have groups, right? They have categories, right? And the collective of all of them, with all their structures and groups and categories and relationships, are what we call our Egbe Orun, right? Our heavenly mates, right? All of these, the collective of all these doubles in heaven, right? So it's like our people that we are close to in heaven, right? Why does all of this matter? How does this impact our lives as human beings? Well, in several ways. Number one, they say that the relationships we have down here mirror the relationships we have in heaven, in the spiritual realm. So if I'm close to someone here, it's because our spiritual doubles are also close. If I'm enemies with someone, it's because maybe we're also enemies in heaven. That's one way. Another way is that our egbe, they're spiritually elevated, right? Because they're in the spiritual realm. So they have powers, right? They're spiritually powerful, and they have the ability to bring us a lot of blessings and elevate us in life. So it's a major part of the tradition, right? We have shrines for Egbe, right? Because again, they're different categories. So we have shrines which represent the different types of Egbe, right? One category could be Iyalode. We have a shrine for Iyalode that we can go to and pray for blessings. We have a shrine for Jagun, which is another type of Egbe that we can go to and pray for blessings. There are many types, right? So working with Egbe is a very big part of our tradition. They're priests and priestesses of Egbe, right? Another way, they communicate with us strongly in dreams and things like that, right? Now, those are many positive ways they can impact us. They can also create some difficulty in our lives, such as sometimes we've made pacts in heaven, such as having a spiritual husband or spiritual wife, and then we get here on earth, that spiritual husband or spiritual wife is making it difficult for us to have relationships, right? And some other ways. But this ties into those two verses, right? So the first verse that I chanted from Utura Meji Akuru Mangbele, that verse, right? This speaks about one of the positive impacts that our Egbe can have on us in terms of healing, right? And in this verse, it speaks about someone who was so depressed, fed up with life. They were like, their mental health was not good, and they were ready to give it all up and end their life, right? And so in the beginning of the verse, it says, Diafun Eriaye on Bo Konfun Torun. So divination is performed for the Egbe of the earth, which is us, and the Egbe of heaven, the spiritual realm. I talked about we exist here and there, right? Ekuru Akara, Timoje Yami Tisan. Ekuru is like a type of food. Akara is another type of food. I think Ekuru is made from beans. Akara is also made from beans, right? Timoje Yami Tisan. So the ekuru and akara that I'm eating, my mother's paid for. Akuru mangbele, mamaku degbenu. So this is where that person who was so fed up, ready to give up on life and throw away, that's another part. They were ready to throw away their egbe shrine. They were so fed up with life and just end it. So it's saying, mamaku degbenu, don't throw away your egbe and die, right? Akuru mangbele, then we say, Iraiku, Iraje, Iraya, Iraoko, Iramo, Ishegonta. We're mentioning all types of blessings. Timoje, Ya, Mitison. Like all these blessings that I'll have is my mother that will pay for it. Right? And so I believe this is referring to your Egbe. So it's advising the person, no matter how depressed, whatever mental state that you're in, ready to give up, don't throw away your Egbe shrine and die, because it's your Egbe that will uplift you and will fulfill your hopes and bring you all the blessings that maybe are causing you to be in this state of depression, right? So this is an example of how, sometimes when we're, and we're talking about mental health, right? This is how sometimes when we're in a very low state, right? There's many aspects of spiritual healing, but one aspect is that sometimes it's your egbe, right, that will uplift you and elevate you out of that state, right? So this is from my Odu, from my Hand of Ifa, and, I've lived the experience of that Odu, and I was told to work closely with my Egbe to uplift me and elevate me into a better mental state. So that's one aspect of healing. Now, let's talk about what the other verse that I chanted means. The verse that went, Bio Jojo, Bio Jojo, Bio Tutu, Bio Rin, Diafun Rin Tin Soma Jalaye, Diafun Tutu Tin Soma Ajani Waron. So this verse is speaking about someone who tends to get very sick all the time, catch colds, things like that, and they don't know why. But what's happening is their spiritual double in heaven is pulling on them, pulling them slightly back to the spiritual realm, and it makes them have these spells of sickness. And they need to work closely with their Egbe to, clear away that type of sickness, right? And so sometimes these 5 verses are tricky to exactly translate word for word, but my understanding of this verse is that Riri is the person on earth, right? And Ututu, which means cold literally, is the spiritual double in heaven. and Ututu is pulling on Riri, like, come here. And when that happens, Riri starts to get sick and experience colds and things like that, right? So this is speaking about how our egg can impact our health directly, right? Egg can call people home early, right? Another aspect too is if someone is an abiku, right, which is a child who's born to die, like they were meant to come here and then go back home early. Sometimes that issue needs to be fixed through egg as well, right, to ensure that they're not called back to heaven early, right? So egg can pull people back to heaven early. This verse is an example of how our egg can even pull on us slightly and cause sickness and other, bodily issues, right? And so in this case, you could do as many healing rituals as you want, as many spiritual baths, this, that. But in this case, it's actually someone's egg that need to be appeased, right? They need maybe egg initiation, like in my case, and they need to work closely with their egg to stop these flashes of cold and things like that, right? So we see the many ways that our egg can be a source of healing, how our egg can cause some, bodily health issues, and then can also be the source of solution and healing for that problem as well. So as I close out, my prayer for you is the prayer from the first verse that I chanted, right? That verse which talks about someone who's feeling so down, ready to give up, so defeated, so hopeless. So my prayer for you is that anyone who's watching this who feels like they're ready to give up in life, they don't know how they're going to do this, they don't know how they're going to do that, they're ready to just throw in the towel and call it quits, that your egg, right, your heavenly mates always support you. They always remind you that there is hope, right, and that they give you the blessings and the success that you are looking for in life.
Aboya, Alafia. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to you. My name is Dr. Akmal Muwwakkil. I'm a licensed acupuncturist with a PhD in nutrition. I've written 5 books, and I've treated several hundred people. I've been doing natural medicine since 1974. And I'm in my 70s, and so now I'm teaching it. So I volunteered to make this presentation, and I volunteered because of the fact that every day of my life I'm within the compounds of Babaluaiye. My work is strictly through Babaluaiye. It's not in regards to anything other than that. And so I'd like to drop some information in your ear and let your mind process it and see how your mind processes it so that you can begin to take care of your health. In honor of Babaluaiye, I'm going to talk about developing a self-care health protocol, because that's exactly what a lot of us need. A lot of us need that because of the factor that we don't have a protocol. The other part of that is the factor that with the way this administration is handling things, and with healthcare being so up and down, the piece of that is that we need to be able to take care of ourselves if we need to do that. Not to tell you not to go to see your doctor, anything of that nature, but we need to do that. And all of that is governed by Babaluaiye. Babaluaiye, for me, is also a symbol of Chinese medicine, is which I practice. Okay. And he's that because he balances life and death. And in Chinese medicine, life and death are actually dealt with through kidneys energy, and later I'll talk a little more about the kidneys, which are the very powerful elements of your body. So what I want to do is I want to look at the fact of asking a few questions, and then let's look into your health. Okay. As we move forward, let's look into your health. So, do you have a self-care protocol? It's the first question. And if you do, is it updated or does it need to be updated? Because a lot of things have changed. On another note, if you don't have one, then you might want to think about developing one. This is one thing I would say to everybody. If there's a person in your house that's 7 years old to 99, everybody should be CPR certified, because you don't know when someone's going to need to save somebody's life with CPR. Okay. So that would be one of the first things that I would say put into your self-care protocol. Because that works. The other piece of that is, why do you need it? Why? And you need it because of the fact that, with organizations being broken down and closed that had to deal with the fact of helping us to maintain an understanding of what we're eating, of what we're taking in terms of pharmaceuticals, in terms of water, in terms of the atmosphere. Because they're closing, we need to have a better handle on our health, because that's also affecting the hospitals, the doctors. So when you start to look at that, you have to start to look at where your DNA is, and how your DNA is functioning. Okay. And your DNA actually is stored in your bones, along with your stem cells and vitamin D. So that's what's in your bones. Now, the interesting thing is, I said I was going to get back to the kidneys. The interesting thing is that the kidneys are related to the bones. Well, Babaluaiye has to do with life and death. Your kidneys have to do with life and death. Your kidneys have to do with spirituality, one. Second, your kidneys have to deal with the factor of conception, gestation, pregnancy, delivery, maturity, aging, and death. Okay, so they'll bring you in and take you out. They have to do with your brain marrow as well. So now when we start talking about Alzheimer's, we now have to look to see how we balance the kidneys. Okay. And so as we begin to balance the kidneys, and how do you balance the kidneys? One of the ways to balance the kidneys is through eating seaweed. Okay, in some cases you can eat things like sauerkraut, which will help the liver to help the kidneys to rebalance itself. Eating beans. Beans are a good way to help to rebalance the kidneys, and especially kidney beans. Yeah. So when you start to look at the body, and you look at the kidneys, you also have to look at your blood, because your kidneys have to do with the blood. So Babaluaiye had that balance going on, even though his body looked imbalanced. So when we start looking at the kidneys, we now look at your blood. So let me ask this question. Do you know your blood type? That should be a piece that's in your self-care protocol. Understanding your blood type. Understanding the foods that you should be eating for your blood type. Because that's the fuel that drives you. That's like if you have a Mercedes Benz, you got to put premium gas in it. You can't put regular gas in it. You put regular gas in it, and it causes it to have issues. And so those issues now could cause you to have other kinds of issues that's going to cost you a lot of money with that car. So the piece of that is the factor that you need to put in the foods that your body needs in order for it to function. The other piece of that is the factor that, do you eat foods in season? You should eat foods in season. That's a self-care piece. Why should you eat foods in season? You should eat foods in season because of the fact that these foods in season is going to help the body to heal itself. In the wintertime, for instance, I see people buying watermelons. And in the wintertime, you buying watermelons and eating watermelons, instead of the watermelon being alkaline in the body, it can turn to acid. Unless, of course, you're using the watermelon for medicine. So if you're going to use it for medicine, then you would use it for things like hypertension. And especially if you boil the seeds and drink the water from the seeds. See, so you got to understand the factor that, you need to eat foods in season, and you need to eat foods that are locally grown. There's a lot of farmers around. Go to the farm market. See what you can pick up. That's in season, because that's also gonna have the nourishment, the micronutrients that your body needs in order for you to be able to function, okay, at the highest level that you want to deal with. The other piece of that is winter's not a detoxification season. Detoxification seasons are spring and autumn. Winter is a fortify, and summer are fortifying. So you're fortifying your blood during this season. Okay. So begin to learn herbs, medicinal herbs. Because when you learn medicinal herbs, what begin to happen is that now you begin to take in nutrients that can heal the body. And go with somebody that can take you on a local herb walk, so that you learn the herbs that's in your neighborhood. That's self-care. Okay. The other piece of that is the factor of begin to deal with how you drink water and where you drink water from. And the water that you're drinking is it balancing your body? A lot of people are drinking alkaline water, and the pH in some of that alkaline water is just too high for the body. But people are pushing that, and people are drinking that. So I would suggest that deal with water, whether it's purified, distilled, or spring, and even alkaline. Because water, your body's 75% more water. So you need to really begin to put in the water that your body needs so that it doesn't get dehydrated. Because dehydration is another kind of ailment that hits a lot of people. And when it hits them, a lot of times we don't know what it is. But yeah, a lot of people are dealing with that. With the factor of dehydration. And in the autumn, everybody start to get that ash. You got that ash going on. You put that lotion on there trying to get that ash off. That ash is on there. You know that. Come on, don't start that. And so in the wintertime, it's a good time to deal with hypertension, diabetes. Balance them. Lupus, arthritis. All of these are kind of any bone ailment has to deal with, or brain ailment has to do with the kidneys, and during this season it's a good time to begin to work on that. Exercise, you should exercise, put that into your protocol, okay, because exercise keeps the energy moving and keeps the joints open, especially if you're aging. The other piece of that is eating foods in their proper combination, because of the factor that you're a chemist and your body's a chemistry factory, and everything that goes into your body, on your body, or you touch, what happens is a chemical reaction happens in your body. So begin to really begin to look at the chemistry that you're dealing with. When I go to buy something that's in a package, the first thing I do is look at the ingredients. Okay, and then how much of what's in there. Because of the fact that it's chemistry, and that chemistry is going into this body, and this body don't want to be sick. Okay. And so I pray that I've given you some things that you can put in your protocol, okay, to advance your life and your health. Each year I would say go get your blood checked, so that you know what's in your blood. If you're over age, get that colonoscopy happening. Okay, yeah, get that done. If you're a woman, get that mammogram. Okay, And if you're elder male, go get your prostate checked. Okay, so that you stay healthy, because all of that should be in your protocol. So that was my contribution to Babaluaiye, to get you to take a look and think about a healthcare protocol, for yourself. Okay, you might have one for your car where you get it washed, waxed, and interior done, all of that, but you got to do that for yourself as well.